Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into what's basically a first aid kit for EdTech marketing. We're going to talk about a role that's fast becoming a secret weapon for companies struggling to scale in a really crowded market. That role? The fractional CMO. Let's find out how it can be the cure for all those marketing headaches.
So let's just start with the one question that's probably on every EdTech founder's mind. Your user base is climbing, you're getting those signups, but are you actually making more money? It's this critical disconnect that can really break a marketing strategy and cause some serious pain for a growing business. And this brings us to something we can call the EdTech growth paradox. It's that super frustrating situation where a company looks really successful on the surface. You've got more learners, more activity, but when you look behind the curtain, the economics, they just don't add up. So why does this happen? Well, the EdTech world is just tougher than ever before. Your customer acquisition cost, or CAC, that's the money you have to spend to get just one new user, it's going up. And at the same time, learners expect way more than just a course. They want real, tangible results and a seamless experience. That combo creates a huge challenge for growth. And this really gets to the heart of the whole problem. You could build the most incredible, life-changing product on the planet, but, if you can't cut through all that noise and actually connect with your audience, it's just not enough to succeed anymore. It's as simple as that. All right, so let's stick with our little medical analogy here and actually diagnose the illness. What are the specific symptoms that tell you your marketing strategy is struggling? It's time to take a closer look at the common ailments that are plaguing so many EdTech teams. What's really powerful here is seeing how all these symptoms feed each other. So, learners want real outcomes, not just a piece of paper. This, in turn, leads to a leaky funnel where all your free trial users just disappear. To fix that, you start pouring money into ads, which you just can't sustain. And the whole thing gets worse because your internal teams are all working in their own little bubbles. Sound familiar? And what's the end result of all this? You get stuck in a cycle of reactive marketing. Instead of executing a clear, long-term strategy, your teams are just constantly chasing leads and putting out fires. It's a really chaotic and, frankly, inefficient way to try and build a business. But there is a cure, and it's called the fractional CMO. Now, this isn't about just hiring another consultant. No, this is a fundamentally different way of embedding high-level strategic leadership right into the heart of your company. So what exactly is a fractional CMO? Well, imagine getting a top-tier C-suite level marketing leader who's actually embedded in your team, but on a part-time basis. You get all the high-level strategy and direction you desperately need, but you get it without the massive cost of a full-time executive salary. Now, a common question is, wait a minute, isn't that just a marketing agency? And that's fair, but there's a huge difference. An agency is an external vendor you hire for execution, to run your ads, to write your content. A fractional CMO, on the other hand, is an embedded leader who is focused entirely on the high-level strategy. They're the one making sure all the execution, whether it's done by your team or an agency, is actually driving real business outcomes.
Okay, so what does this strategic leader actually do when they come on board? Well, they implement a kind of treatment plan for your marketing. Let's call it the strategic playbook.
This playbook has 5 core steps. First, they build a strategy that's completely centered around the learner, making sure you're solving a real problem. Second, they define your brand so you can actually stand out. Third, they lead execution across the entire marketing funnel, from the first time someone hears about you all the way to conversion. Fourth, they set up the analytics to track what's really working. And finally, and this is so crucial, they act as the glue that gets all your internal teams aligned and moving toward one common goal. And the ultimate goal of this entire playbook, it's to completely transform your marketing. It's all about shifting away from making decisions based on a gut feel, on what you think might work, to making decisions based on what the data proves is working. It's about building a marketing engine that is accountable and measurable. But where does this approach really show its value? Well, it's most powerful in those high-stakes moments. The situations where having strategic clarity is the difference between scaling up successfully and just completely stalling out. For example, has your growth gone flat? A fractional CMO comes in and finds the leaks in your funnel. Are you launching a new product? They design the go-to-market plan from scratch. Thinking about entering a new market? They figure out how to localize the message. And if your teams are all siloed, they are the one person who can get everyone aligned and pulling in the same direction.
Now, this all sounds great in theory, right? But what does it actually look like in practice? Let's take a look at a real-world example of this kind of impact.
Tarkashastra Academy is the perfect case study. They were facing the exact symptoms we talked about. Rising costs, a funnel that wasn't working, so they brought in fractional leadership to apply this playbook. They refined the strategy, they aligned the teams, they optimized their campaigns, and the result was dramatic. They doubled their growth. And they did it in just 90 days. That's not a small improvement. That is a fundamental shift in a company's trajectory. It just goes to show how quickly the right strategy can pay off. And this brings us right to the core philosophy behind this whole approach. It's not about marketing louder. It is about scaling smarter. The answer isn't always to just throw more money at ads. It's about being more strategic, more aligned, and way more efficient.
So that leaves us with one final critical question for you to think about. When you look at your budget, do you see marketing as just another expense line item, or do you see it as a strategic investment in a predictable engine for growth? Your answer to that could change everything.